So, per Mr. Zach's question last week, we're going to talk about the Peshitto Primacy. This argument may be foreign to most of you, so let's start with what this debate is about for those who are not familiar with it. Then I will present my arguments. Then I would ask that you take it to your teacher, Mr. Zach, and have him critique it. That is the beauty of academia. I'm going to share my thoughts on it. I'm going to share my arguments on it. I am not an expert in Aramaic, so I will share my discussions with my Aramaic teacher, Mr. Steve. Some of you know him. He is the expert in Aramaic, and I'll share some of our dialogues on the topic. What is Peshitto Primacy? Well, it is the belief that the Syriac Peshitto, that is the Syriac Bible, is the original text of the New Testament. This is a movement that first gained traction, I believe, with the works of the late George Lamsa, and is primarily a position popularized by individuals within the growing Messianic movement. Now, in contrast to what many Peshitto Primacy advocates claim, that the Syriac Peshitto, that is the Syriac Bible, is the original text of the New Testament, most scholars conclude that the Peshitto is a 4th century translation from the Greek and a revision of the prior Old Syriac tradition, which I do agree with, and I'm going to demonstrate why I agree with it. Now, classical Syriac, the dialect the Peshitto is written in, is the most prolific classical Aramaic dialect. Yes. It's had a golden age between the 5th and 8th centuries and spread all over the Middle East to parts as far as to India and China. But not all Syriac is the same. Not all Syriac is equal. The Peshitto Primacy advocates make some really compelling arguments that have to do with places. The arguments are quite compelling, but they make compelling arguments that have to do with places where the Peshitto text displays interesting quirks of idioms, such as wordplay, puns, or ambiguous meanings, that the Greek text of the New Testament, as we have it today, misses or potentially mistranslates. Where the Syriac is good on picking up puns and wordplay that exists in the Aramaic and the layers of the New Testament, it doesn't catch them all. There are some word plays completely missed due to the fact that Syriac is an Eastern dialect of Aramaic, where Galilean, which I argue that Yeshua spoke, is a Western dialect. So yes, the Peshitto picks up quite a lot of these interesting quirks of idiom. It does. But there are some word plays completely missed due to the fact that Syriac is an Eastern dialect of Aramaic, where Galilean, which I do argue or hold that Yeshua spoke, It's a Western dialect. So let me show you one example here in the book of Matthew, chapters 26. In the King James Version, this is what we read. Then said Jesus unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. In the Greek New Testament, this is what it reads. For all who take a sword, by a sword they shall die. Now, what does the Peshitto read? I want you to pay attention that in the King James, the sword is singular. In the Greek New Testament, the sword is singular. What does the Peshitto read? Matthew 26. Then Yeshua said unto him, Return the sword unto its place, for all those who take up swords, sepe, will die by swords, sepe. The Peshitto renders swords in the plural rather than sword in the singular. Sepe is rendered in the plural, swords. Sepe, swords, is rendered in the plural, in the Peshitto. When you bring the text to Galilean Aramaic, which Mr. Steve translates for me, it reads, For everyone who took up a sword, singular, by a sword, singular, they shall die. What is unique is that in the Western Aramaic dialects, the word sepe can mean either sword or end. It can mean sword or end. So it has a double meaning. It can either mean sword or it can either mean end. So it means that it can read, For everyone who took up a sword, by a sword, or in the end, they should die. So there's a double meaning there. This double meaning does not occur in Syriac or other Eastern dialects from the era. So the Peshitto misses it completely, instead choosing to render both instances of sepe in the plural, which makes the pun impossible. This very wordplay is found in the Christian Palestinian Aramaic New Testament and lectionary. And guess what? It is written in a Western dialect, not Eastern like the Peshitto. It is written in a Western dialect that is in many ways similar to what Jesus or Yeshua would have spoken. Given the context, this wordplay is undoubtedly intentional. Look at the Christian Palestinian Aramaic New Testament. What does it say? All those who take up the sword, by the sword, or in the end, they shall be lost. The Peshitto renders it in the plural, missing the double meaning. So like I said, This double meaning does not occur in Syriac or other Eastern dialects from the era that we want it to. So the Peshitto misses it completely, instead choosing to render both instances of sepe in the plural, which makes the pun impossible. As such, this is one of my arguments, that the original version of Matthew cannot be from the Syriac Peshitto.